lo and behold,
All
upgrade
right.
later on. So it is started. And what'll happen is it'll create a file on my desktop afterwards, and it may take me, tomorrow or Monday, but I'll get that posted somewhere online and should be able to send you a link that you can fairly easily access.
I'm going to turn my video off. It looks so bad. I had major work on my face yesterday, and it's so red and swollen. So you don't need to look.
You got a shave too.
Yes, I did. I lost my mustache for the first time in about 25 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, who is that guy? Who is that masked man?
My wife said I look like my mother, and I said, thank you very much.
Yes. I shave my goatee, Dennis. I end up looking like I'm about 14.
Okay.
It doesn't go well.
Oops.
Becky sent me an email today after I sent the email to her, and she mentioned a number of things that MLGW is looking at. I don't remember them, but I have the email, and I was very impressed with it. And I don't know if there are things that can be applied at every local utility company or not. But I think having cooperation and support from the local power companies is a big plus in growing, electric penetration in the communities in the state.
Well, real quickly before we get started, listen to this. KUB is the first power distributor in the Tennessee Valley to commit to a significant solar purchase of 212 megawatts through TVA's Green Invest program. I am excited to share with you today that KUB is adding to that commitment for a total of 502 megawatts of new solar power for the grid. When the solar is constructed, it will result in 20% of KUB's electric load being solar powered.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a number, 20%.
Good.
AUB is leading. Wow. Doing well.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah,
that's good news.
Good news for us, Knoxville.
Very good news.
Drive an EV.
I'm going to soon be driving one, hopefully sometime soon. I told you that I was looking at a Toyota Prius, the plug-in hybrid electric.
Okay. We've only got a few people that came online at this point.
There's somebody else coming on. Some people may arrive late. You can decide if we want to wait a few minutes or go ahead and get started.
What time do you guys have?
I have 8:02.
8:02. I'm just checking. Yeah, I got 8. Okay. I got confirmation from a couple. Okay, I see more controls at the top. Did something just change with that, or?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's a couple of people that are have added some chat.
Okay, it shows 14 participants.
Yeah, let me say this, Joe, for the sake of the discussion. I don't know how you want to handle your presentation for what Virginia and I are going to do. It would help us if we can try to get through the material and let folks, make a mental note or write something down if you have a question, and then we can try to answer those questions all together. And I'm just noting, we don't see a name, but whoever GSHL at Hotmail is, which, by the way, folks, you should be able to rename yourselves if you wish in the interface. And that's by clicking on yours and changing the name. But there, if people have questions, they can also put them in the chat, and then we can try to address those at the end just to make sure we get through what we would like to present.
Yeah, we'll reserve at least 10 minutes at the end to try to cover questions and answers of anything that goes on. So we'll try and reserve the questions for the end. That way we won't have any interruptions, and then we can facilitate them.
And
I
how long
think the
is your
meeting,
PowerPoint, Joe, or your presentation?
what's that?
How long is your presentation?
It should be no more than 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. If you're ready, I can go ahead and start. We show enough attendees here?
Oh, we're fine on attendees. I am recording, so we're ready when you are.
Oh, okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Ozegovich. I am a Sierra Club member of the Chickasaw Group. I volunteered with the Sierra Club for several years. It's been a great experience. And a little bit about myself. I work at FedEx primarily, and I volunteer with the Sierra Club. As a FedEx employee, I am a maintenance instructor, aircraft maintenance instructor. So I'm mostly on the avionics side, the electrical side. So that's why you can see me having an interest in electric vehicles. Today's meeting will be about changing the paradigm and looking at electric vehicles and sustainability from a different set of glasses, and one in which we can help improve our environment, deal with climate change and the issues that are going on with it, because it is having an impact in this world, and we need to make some positive changes. So with that, I have, in addition, we have a second part of the meeting, which will be with the Drive Electric Tennessee group coordinators, and as well as the Clean and East Tennessee Clean Fuels. We have Jonathan Overly. He is the director of East Tennessee Clean Fuels. We also have Virginia Salazar. Did I say that right? Salazar Buda, and
That's
she
right.
is the coordinator for Drive Electric Tennessee, and she's in Eastern Tennessee as well. So we have some really good folks who are going to talk about some of the initiatives going on in the state, and they'll talk about those topics after my presentation. But I also have some information related to Memphis or Shelby County, and I hope that that will be informative about some of the things that are going on county, in my own personal case, county case, and also state case. So maybe we can get a full model there. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next slide. And the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about sustainability, looking at it as a not just an electric car, but how we get power for the electric car and how we live. All right, so think globally, act locally. The Sierra Club's Ready for 100 program is my guideline that I try to focus on and push for. I also have a Facebook page, Living Sustainably Shelby County, if you're interested. Anything that I do within my home or any efforts I do in my community, I try and publish there, just as a way to have a resource for people to tie in. All right, now my mentor, the person I look to for strength and vision, is a man named Nikola Tesla. And I only know of him because of my question of trying to find out why an electrical outlet is 120 volts and not maybe 230 like Europe, or maybe 60 volts or 50 volts. Why 120? And in finding that answer, it was because of the light bulb, Thomas Edison's invention, that we use 120 at the outlet. And that's the only reason I know about this man. And as you can see, he is an environmentalist. Here's a quote from him from 1933. Electrical power is everywhere, present in unlimited quantities, and can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, gas, or any of the other common fuels. That was back in 1933. Hydro plants and other tools were his way of creating clean energy. There are some drawbacks with hydro, of course, but you could see that he was thinking in a different mindset than the rest of the folks. And because of that, it has led me into sustainable models. All right, so this is what I like to focus in on: a three-legged stool approach. Dennis was helpful with me getting on board with this. Thank you, Dennis. One, we want to start at the source, right? You know, if I'm troubleshooting a problem at work on an airplane, first thing I do if I got a problem is I start at the source. Start at the source, and then that will help me find the solution better. So if we start the source by looking at generation of clean energy, we want to look at solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, biomass. These are ways that we can make improvements right from the start. Then second, efficiency, basically electric vehicles versus an internal combustion engine, much more efficient, better for the environment, although anything manufactured is going to provide us with some type of negative impact to the environment. We don't have a perfect solution for everything, but it is a much better system than what we currently have. We also want to look at appliances, getting Energy Star rated appliances, and this is from a home use. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning, make sure you get a very high SEER rating, Energy Star rated. If you haven't moved to LED bulbs, do it already. It's going to save you money right from the start. Third part is conservation. The best part is to make sure you don't use that energy at all, and that's how you can save even more. And we can do that by using car or van pulls, walking, taking bicycles. We can insulate, we can caulk, we can use programmable thermostats, we can load shift, and that would be methods in which we can save some or conserve some energy. So by using this sustainable model of a three-legged stool approach, we can live at a much better and much better way. All right, so a little bit about me. When my parents died, I had the money in the bank making less than 1% interest. And I said, you know, I'm paying taxes on this. I might as well put it to some good use. And the second grade teacher had solar in my elementary school, and it's always stayed with me. So if you ever thought a teacher had an impact in your life, this is it. So I took the money that was in the bank and I put it to solar. So this is my parents' legacy. And I make now 9% annual return. I do have a good incentive that is no longer available, but if you act early, you usually can get some good gains. Now, this solar panel has produced currently 60 megawatt hours of energy, which is equal to, with my incentives, $13,200 so far. And of course, these panels will last 25 years or longer. I average about 7,500 kilowatt hours per year, or currently at $1,650 per year. It was up just a little bit higher last year. So this year might have been a little bit less sun, but not too bad. It gives me almost a 9% return, and that's tax-free, by the way. So it's a good tax-free investment. You're investing in your home. Your real estate prices will go up because my bill, and this is what I say, you know, my real estate sales pitch would be, if I want to sell my house, hey, do you want to pay $200 a month, or do you want to get a check for $200 a month? So my goal is to, one, improve my home and also my environment. So I think this is a win-win. And then marrying it in with an electric car is how I try to move towards sustainability. Now, a quick note, I sell this to TVA, so they own the rights to the clean energy certificates. So all I am is a green provider to TVA. So when I buy my electrical power, it's not necessarily from those solar panels, it goes to TVA. So that one thing I need to make clear. I do sell those rights to TVA, and that's where I get the money from. Okay, now this is the other leg of my other two legs of my stool. If you look, the average Tennessee household current electrical consumption is at 14,856 kilowatt hours a year. In the US, it's 10,399. And the difference is because in the South, it's much warmer. So we use the air conditioning, which is more electricity. If you look at my home is only 4,790 the last 12 months. And that's just making moves with, you know, efficient equipment and conservation techniques, sealing, caulking, doing energy audits, all kinds of good things to make my home more efficient. And the impact is right there. So I produce tons of electrical energy, clean electrical energy from the solar, and I then conserve that energy. And as you can see, I'm more than half of the consumption of a normal household in the state of Tennessee, and just more than half of the entire U.S. So $1,107 of savings per year relative to the average Tennessean. So that's my numbers. And of course, I can't, I have to put my money where my mouth is. And here's my latest MLGW bill. This is my local utility company, local power company. And as you can see, my bill was $0.00. I consumed 205 kilowatt hours this month, and I produced 585 through the solar panels. All right, so that gave me a credit of $20.27 for my electrical generation. And as you can tell, it added an additional credit on my bill. Now, again, when I put my system in, it was back when there was a great incentive. That incentive is not as lucrative now. So you won't see the numbers that I have, but I still get a check every month, by the way, from TVA, which is usually in the area of $135, in addition to this credit on this MLGW bill. So it's paying off. It's a good investment, solid investment, and cleaner for the environment as well. So there you have my latest bill. And one of the things I want to talk about is electric cars. And one of the things that amazes me is that the first cars were electric. This is a Flocken Elektrowagen built in 1888. And it started off electric, and then it moved to gasoline. And there's a reason, and the beauty of electric cars is that you can use different sources to get that electricity. So it could be from nuclear, it could be from coal, it could be from dirty sources, or it can be from clean sources like solar, wind, and geothermal. So the beauty of electrical is that you can make your own energy, whereas you cannot make your own fuel. So the gasoline cars that you see on the road, or diesel cars on the road, by design, there's no competitor. So this is an important thing to remember when you're buying your vehicle is that by design, somebody is limiting what options you have for that energy source. And by going electric, you can have your electricity generated by a gasoline engine, by coal, but the best thing to do is go with something that's clean like solar, especially in the South. All right, so that's an example of a car, an electric car, 1888. Now here's what I have. So since 2005, this has been my vehicles. I have 2005 Toyota Prius, and guess what? It's still using the same batteries. The car is 15 years old, still using the same batteries, and it's still functioning. I still use it today as a backup. It's not my primary vehicle. It's still working. It averages 48 miles per gallon. And my Nissan Leaf that I got, my first electric car, averaged 156.5 miles per gallon equivalent. Now, that was super efficient, but it's a smaller car, and it wasn't as fun as my next vehicle, which was a Tesla Model S. And this was built, I had bought that new in 2014. It has 113 miles per gallon equivalent average. Now, these energy efficient vehicles for transportation saved me over $16,374 since 2005. So that's a pretty good savings. So what I do with that savings, I took it and I earmarked it for vacation. So I went to Hawaii, I went to Australia to visit my daughter. So I take vacations with the money I save, so that this way I put it towards something good. I feel good about it, and I can get a tangible feel for those savings. All right. And the other thing that's important is I say it saved me $16,000 or over $16,000. This assumes I paid for it. So like, for example, when I bought my Tesla, the supercharging's free. So guess where I charge my vehicle? Supercharger. Okay. So this is important. If I go to Shelby Farms Park to exercise, I plug in there, and guess what? Free supercharging. All right, so free charging there. That's a level 2 charger. So a lot of this is free, and it doesn't cost the end user, and that's something to think about. Next slide is about maintenance. What kind of maintenance you got? Well, yeah, it's new technology, but the thing about electrical systems is there's less moving parts. So internal combustion engine vehicles have more than 20,000 moving parts, and you can see it's a nightmare to maintain. And as a mechanic, I can tell you, it's a heart of love. It's something you really have to enjoy doing if you want to maintain your vehicle. On an electric car, most of the maintenance is just the routine, like tire rotation, windshield wiper changes, cabin air filter changes, and tires themselves when they wear out. But that's about it. There really isn't too much else you have to do. Maybe sometimes some suspension work, just like you do on a conventional car. The batteries, the engines, the motors, and any of the drive units, they're all warranted for 8 years, usually 125,000 miles, maybe even more depending upon the vehicle. So obviously you're not going to be spending a lot of money for maintenance on the vehicle. You just plug and play. And the other benefit of an electric car, especially like on a Tesla, and these other manufacturers are going to start moving in that direction as well, is over-the-air software updates, just like your Windows operating system. You get a new patch or a new feature, it just comes through as software, not as a mechanical device where you have to hire somebody to install it. This will just come through on a hard drive on the car, and you're good to go. All right, now, exciting to drive and much safer. An electric vehicle is much safer because it has crumple zones in the front and the back, absorbing all that energy, which then saves the occupants of the vehicle. So if you're a young mother and you want to be safer with your children in the car, an electric car is definitely the way to go. It's definitely a good vehicle for everybody, so they're safer. The other thing is it's got instantaneous torque, which means that you hit that accelerator, you're going. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Nissan Leaf or a Tesla, you will go. Any electric car will give you that instantaneous torque. And once you drive one, you'll never look back. You go, why on earth do they ever have an internal combustion engine vehicle? Electric car is so much better. And because the batteries are at the lowest point of the vehicle and at the center, it's got a great center of gravity, or CG as we refer to it, which means that when you turn, the car doesn't sway. It doesn't want to flip over. It stays to the ground. So one of the things you'll notice right away is how superior that vehicle is in terms of handling, and super quiet too, because you don't have an engine noise going on. It's very peaceful, and it makes you feel like you're at a whirly-bird ride at the amusement park. All right, so that's some of the benefits. Exciting to drive. Here's another benefit of an electric car. It's called regenerative braking, which means that in the past, with an internal combustion engine car, you use the gas pedal, and then when you seen a traffic light up ahead, you took your foot off the accelerator pedal or the gas pedal, and then you put your foot on the mechanical brakes. On an electric car, that changes the game. You see a traffic light ahead, you take your foot off the accelerator, and the motor turns into a generator. It just swaps poles. So what happens is it uses the motor converting to a generator to slow the car down and at the same time charge the batteries. It's a win-win solution. It's like, why weren't we doing this all the time? So again, this is about paradigm shifts, looking at transportation from a whole new set of glasses. And once you see a different light, you'll never go back. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of people who have misconceptions about electric vehicles, solar and clean energy, it's mostly because they haven't experienced it. Once they experience it, their world has changed. And I do this at work all the time. I give guys rides at work, and they get in the car. I just say, you drive. And they just start going, oh man, this is great. And I've had my last presentation I had where we had an audience. When we closed shop at the church, we did a local church in Millington. One of the fellows that was part of the group, he immediately followed me back to take back the Nissan sign to the Nissan dealership and bought a Nissan Leaf, right? Just like that, boom. So once you test drive one, you get a feel for it. If you're in the market for a car, it's a game changer. It is something that you'd want to get involved in. So it's safer with regenerative braking. It slows the car down. Plus you have the mechanical brakes also to slow the car down as well. All right. Now, range anxiety. This is the biggest thing I hear about all the time. Everybody's concerned about the range and, oh, how far will it go? How long does it take to charge? And, main thing is people buy for their worst case examples. Like, for example, they'll buy a vehicle to go to Canada once a year. And we do this all the time. We buy for that worst case example. Why not buy a car for your 99.5% example? So my commute is 40 miles a day. Anything more than that is not necessary. You plug in at night, it's charged up and ready to go in the morning. You never have to worry about range. So that range anxiety is just that. It's anxiety over something that's not necessarily tangible for people in suburban and city areas. The more rural you get, then there's some other considerations. But just keep that in mind. 40 miles a day is the average commute for people. That's all you need. And if you need to make a big trip, just rent. And then you save so much money. You saw how much I saved going electric and hybrid, 16,000 since 2005. Just rent for that big trip. It's somebody else's vehicle and you're done with it. You turn it in, then you go back to saving money with an electric car. And you'll probably go, I can't wait to get back to my electric car. I'm in Alaska right now, by the way. And you know what I'm missing right now? I'm missing driving my electric car. I can't stand the fact that I'm going to a gas station and putting gasoline in the vehicle. I can't wait to get back. So just to show you how much I love it. All right. And then remember, electricity is everywhere. One of the things about TVA is they have electric charging stations we could have electric vehicle charging stations everywhere because electricity is everywhere. And it's in our homes, it's in our businesses. And all we have is we just need vision, we need leadership. So TVA is getting ready to help with incentives for moving us to electric charging stations throughout the state of Tennessee. So I really would like you to keep pushing for your local authorities to move towards electric. All right, what to do with all these batteries? And when they're all done, one of the biggest concerns for people is environmental issues. What are you going to do with the dead batteries or the batteries that are no longer available on the electric car? Well, Chevy, for example, has a data center in Michigan. They use it for battery storage capabilities. Just because a battery no longer is used for an electric vehicle doesn't mean it's gone forever. It can be repurposed and reused. And here's an example of these different companies and what they do in their different portfolios. So take a look at this screen. You can see batteries being reused, repurposed, and that extends the life of these batteries. Okay. And that's an example of what you do with those batteries. Here's the charge time and cost for level 3. This is, I call it level 3, but it's really DC fast charging. And 120 miles on a Tesla Supercharger will be done in 18 minutes, and it'll cost you $9.60 as compared to $14.18 for gasoline. So it's a big savings going electric. And one of the things when I drive long distance, I only charge to 120 miles and then I just piggyback. So I stop, I have to use the restroom. By the time I come back, I'm ready to go. And it doesn't increase my time for charging that much on a long trip. All right, so this would be long trips, not day in and day out use for a 40-mile commute. This one here shows my home charging. Now, the cost to fully charge the car at home is $9.57. This is based on 2019. This would be level 2 charging at home. And compared to a gasoline car, it would be $22.62. So that's a big savings. Now, the amount of time it takes to charge from 0 to 260, which would be the maximum range on this car, it would be 7 hours and 33 minutes. But it doesn't matter because I'm asleep and I never charge to full because all I drive in a day is 40 miles. So that only takes about an hour's worth of charging, and that's about it. And this is based upon this number here for my average commute is 280 miles per week with weekends included. So you can see some of the savings there. Oh, and this is based upon me having a 11 cent per kilowatt charge versus a $2.60 average price per gallon for gasoline. So you can see the price comparisons between the two. All right, now about superchargers throughout the United States. Look at this, 2,031 Tesla. This is just Tesla. superchargers. So am I fearful when I want to go from Memphis to New York? No, it's not an issue for me. Worldwide 2031, 928 in USA. I hope I didn't make that mistake. So there's definitely public charging available if you have a Tesla. Now this is proprietary to Tesla only. But now Electrify America's charging map. This is a recent one I just took. And as you can see, they got a pretty good network. And these are chargers that are used by all the different types of electric vehicles. And as you can see, they have an extensive network for EV fast charging, DC fast charging throughout the United States. That's just another company. Then if you go to the Department of Energy's electric charging map, this is looking at all the ones we just saw before plus more. So look, this is not an issue. Electrical power is everywhere. And therefore, all we need is a way to adapt to it. And that shouldn't be hard. That should be an easy solution. Okay, and just a quick map here. This shows my long distance trip from Memphis to New York and back, 2,300 all electric miles using only Tesla superchargers. And because I bought the Tesla with free supercharging, it didn't cost me a penny. And it can go long distances, and that's not an issue. This was back in 2017. And so don't let range anxiety control you. Get an electric car and make your day. EVs are the future. We want to look at it with a different set of glasses. So we want to change that paradigm. Get your elected leaders to commit to EVs. They're superior in efficiency, safety, performance, and handling with little to no maintenance costs, zero emissions, clean solar energy can be its source. So you want to make the best of that. And charging is not that difficult, okay? And I'm going to pass this on to the Tennessee Clean Fuels Group. And I don't know, Jonathan, are you going to lead that session?
Sorry, I was still on mute. Yes.
Okay.
Happy to do so, Joe. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody. And is it coming up okay? Looking like a presentation?
I see it fine on my end.
Okay. All right. And know that I was typing in some comments. Somebody asked a question. Susan put a note in the chat. So if you all have not been able to see it, open the chat and you'll see a few thoughts in there. But what Virginia and I want to do is just give you guys a little bit of kind of a 30,000 foot picture of what Drive Electric Tennessee is, and then a number of different electric vehicle, activities and projects that have been going on in Tennessee. So I'm just going to jump in here. This is basically what we want to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about at least who the Tennessee Clean Fuels programs are and a little bit of background, but then jump into Drive Electric Tennessee. We'll talk about just some examples of EV fleets in Tennessee that we know of today. We'll specifically address some of the mass transit, certainly the four big ones, because everybody's either already doing something or making moves toward that. We'll talk about the first electric school bus that we have in Tennessee, and we want to see more, but right now we have one, and it's actually supposed to arrive, I think, in the next few weeks. Going to talk a little bit about VW funding. And if you've not heard of it, the Federal Highway Administration has been doing corridors for alternative fuels, including electric vehicle corridors. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and it's a little mixed together, but I'll explain why when we get to that section. And then I want to talk about two projects that started in 2018, 2019 that are going on. And you see one of them right here. It's Tennessee Tech, and they have this proof of concept called an EV testbed regional project. But I don't have a slide for it, but I want to make a note that Dana and Vivian from the Memphis Shelby County Office of Sustainability submitted a concept paper for a proof of concept project for Shelby County earlier this year, and they won that funding. So just know there's some things in addition to MATA and stations and stuff like that. There's some other things going on in your backyard. So basically, I'm the coordinator of East Tennessee Clean Fuels, which is one of the DOE Clean Cities programs. And then we oversee the operations of the Middle West Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition. Alexa Wojtek and Shauna Vasquez are the TDEC Office of Energy Programs people that are contractors to help run this coalition. And then the several people that are staff at East Tennessee help them with various things across the middle western part of the state. But Drive Electric Tennessee is not a 501c3, it's a subunit of East Tennessee Clean Fuels. Each of these two coalitions is a 501c3, so Drive Electric Tennessee kind of operates under East Tennessee Clean Fuels. Yeah, and this is just a snapshot of the DOE Clean Cities programs that are across the country. There's about 85 of them. You know, whether it's Iowa, North Dakota, Phoenix, or Florida, there are people similar to us who are working on projects to get more alternative fuels, including electric vehicles, used across this country. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the different kinds of entities that we work with. And it spans from like Memphis, Shelby County to UPS, to Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools, to the city of Chattanooga, to the Tennessee State Parks, to companies like Clean Sweep in Chattanooga. Knoxville Utilities Board. NetTrans is a rural, mostly rural area transit operator in the northeastern corner of Tennessee. And then most of you all would probably recognize this logo. And Frito-Lay is actually a great example if we look at Class 8 tractors as somebody that might be able to use electric versions of those to be one of the first Class 8 fleets that does spoke and wheel hauling across the U.S. We have a number of partnerships, and just talk about a couple of those. First of all, with EPA Region 4, if you know, we're in the Southeast. EPA has 10 regions across the United States, and we're Region 4. We've been working with EPA Region 4 for probably over 15 years and have a good partnership with those folks. So they have actually renamed their collaborative. Many of the EPA regions have a collaborative group, and they've renamed theirs the Southern Team Reducing Impacts on Diesel Emissions. And slowly, electric vehicles, a lot of what they work on is medium and heavy duty, but slowly electric vehicles are coming into more of those conversations more and more. Reducing diesel emissions for a healthier Tennessee is work we do with a different part of TDEC than the Office of Energy Programs. And it's an annual funding program that is the state EPA money that usually ends up being about $300,000 a year. That right now the opportunity is open, and it can provide 25, 35, even possibly higher than 35% of a new vehicle's cost to replace an older diesel one. We manage the Tennessee Green Fleet Certification Program, which is a way for fleets of any size or type to get certified based on the proactive work they're doing to reduce petroleum use, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and use more fuels that are not gasoline and diesel. That's just the logo of the Tennessee Tech project, which you'll hear more about in a few minutes. And then we work with fleets that use alternative fuels across the state to do tours from year to year. So I'm almost done with the introduction, but since 2004, all of the fleets that are kind of the leaders in Tennessee that use different alternative fuels have reduced 134 million GGEs of petroleum. That number was over 21 million just last year. So there's some good people doing work using a variety of different alternative fuels. And then this is just I thought this was a nice snapshot to see. You can see this color creeping in to this graph. And what this graph is it's not total alternative fuel vehicles in the United States. It's based on all those Clean Cities programs, the fleet alternative fuel vehicles that are in use. So you can see that, you know, E85 has been around a long time. You see hybrid electric vehicles creeping through here. You see biodiesel use, compressed natural gas is in there. Renewable natural gas, which is a huge greenhouse gas reducer, is growing in use. But then you see the PEVs growing in here, and you can recognize this is only 2018. I would not be surprised if this doesn't, you know, grow by 20% or more as we look at 2019 and 2020. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Virginia to talk a little bit about Drive Electric Tennessee.
Can I make a
Thanks.
comment about that previous chart?
If you will hold that comment and put it in the chat, then we will go right back to it and get to your question when we're done.
Okay, great, thanks.
So glad to be here today. As Jonathan had said, the Drive Electric Tennessee is a program that is managed under the East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition. The organization was started by TVA. They jump-started that process in 2018, where there were various stakeholders across the state that came together, from municipalities to utilities to nonprofit education institutions, private individuals that came together to formulate a roadmap strategy. And that strategy was published in the early part of 2019, where the last year and a half, we have created 4 separate opportunity areas where everything that we're producing falls under one of these buckets. And so we have the infrastructure team, we have a policies and programs team, an awareness team, and an availability team. So there's a total of 64 people that are working towards these 4 separate, what we call opportunity area working groups. And Joe is on one of our teams. So we're very lucky to be completely surrounded by people that are subject matter experts. And so we're fortunate that we have so many people that are across the state, even in and outside of the state as well. Drive Electric Tennessee has an executive team and members. We are a member-based organization, and our members are TVA, EPB, Middle West Tennessee Clean Fuels, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, Office of Energy Programs, KUB, 7 States Power Corporation, University of Tennessee's Tickle College of Engineering, the Institute for a Secure and Sustainable Environment, and of course our team, which is East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition. We have these 4 groups that I mentioned earlier. There are 4 separate buckets where from May 2020 to May 2021, we've made commitments to work towards a total of, I believe it's 11 projects at this point. And as you can see on this particular chart, there's 4 separate opportunity areas, there's 4 separate buckets. And availability, as you see at the very end, is the one that is not active yet, but the first 3 are. So with infrastructure, we have Drew Fry from TVA, Brad Raines from 7 States Power Corporation, and their goals are maintenance support, site host guide, workplace infrastructure programs for this year. And then in awareness, we have co-chairs Daniel Sixay from East Tennessee Clean Fuels and Shauna Vasquez from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Office and Energy Programs. Their jobs or their work is in EV chapter development, educator training programs, digital EV marketing, EV station signage, fleet case studies. In the policy and programs work group, we have Alexa Voitex from Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation and Laurel Creech from Nashville Metro. And their work for this year is creating local action plans, workplace charging, best practices guides, EVIP parking tourism. So our teams are very active. And like I said, these are the co-chairs and their goals for this year, but there's a total of 64 of us that are working together. We do have EV fleets in the state of Tennessee. There are some, as you can see, in that light duty space in Nashville. There's 25 leaves there. In Kingsport, we have 3 leaves. Knoxville, 2. Chattanooga, there's some plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. And then Memphis, I believe we're still trying to collect some information on that. I know that you all are from Memphis, so maybe you all can provide some insight at the very end of the presentation about Memphis. We have utilities, KUB, that's out of Knoxville, Memphis Light Gas and Water in Memphis, and then Bright Ridge. And then in the private industry, we have Eastman, and then Earth, which is based out of Nashville. Also with the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, there's 8 leaves. We have Tennessee Tech that has 3 leaves and 1 plug-in hybrid electric F250. We'll talk about TTU in just a minute. And then we have some medium duty utility bucket trucks. As you can see, CARTA has 13 shuttles. Washington County Schools has an electric school bus. And then we have some heavy mass transit buses that are where we have WeGo, there's 2 WeGos, there's 3 at Carta, there's 12 with CAT and 3 with MATA. So we'll go into that explanation a little bit more in the next slide. Let's see. So here are some of those mass transit EVs in Tennessee. With WeGo, these are the buses. I know we're kind of running a little bit at a time, but they have 9 Proterra buses that are mainly running in the downtown circular route. And with the downtown construction, that's kind of eliminated some of that opportunity. So they've reduced the buses to 2 buses for shorter routes, and or they're operating 2 buses right now. So there's some expectations of having some other electric buses on that circuit. With the mass transit EVs in Chattanooga through CARTA, you have an old downtown shuttle fleet. There's 14 in use since 1992. They've bought 5 e-bus electric trolleys, and they have 3 35-foot BYD K9Ss that have operated since March 2019. They've ordered 4 BYD 30-foot buses that started operating in 2021. That's not with Volkswagen money. And then with the Volkswagen settlement, there's 3 more buses plus some charging infrastructure for 2021-22. For transit in Knoxville, that's the CAT bus, we have the 12 35-foot New Flyer Excelsior charge buses that have been ordered. And they're going to have capability to charge at depot through an opportunity charging, fast charging at the bus center at Church Street. And of course, COVID has placed a huge dent on everyone's timeline. So the expectations for those buses will be sometime in December of 2021. And then here we go into MATA, which is the system that you all have in Memphis. In 2018, they've won $20 million from TDOT CMAQ funds to purchase 10 electric buses, and they added several electric charging stations along a new bus route servicing the airport in Southeast Memphis area. It's $13.9 million to buy the 10 buses and infrastructure, with the new route that is at $6 million. In 2019, MATA won the $2.9 million in 2019 Volkswagen funds that will go to support 3 all-electric transit buses, in addition to acquisition and installation and charging infrastructure. So
let me kick in here, Virginia, real quick. And I know we were going to hold questions, but has anybody heard about MATA implementing any electric buses in the last 2 or 3 years? That's my understanding. We're talking to Gary, because I've talked to Gary, and Virginia has as well, and he wasn't saying anything about implementing. And I just found that news item on 2018 a couple of days ago, kind of pulling this thing together.
Yeah, and there's some challenges, of course, with some of these mass transit buses. They are a little bit on the more expensive side than when we're looking at that versus a light duty vehicle. It's a vastly different conversation, as you probably know. Although it's always hopeful to see these types of transit buses happening, mass public buses for the population. I think this is a good sign.
Well, let me take over here, Virginia, because I want to make a couple of points to folks. What's interesting about some of what's going on with mass transit buses in Tennessee is Nashville chose Proterra buses. Chattanooga has chosen BYD. Knoxville has chosen New Flyer, of which those buses are manufactured in Alabama. And we don't know what MATA is going to select, or what they may have already selected. But so it's a bit of good news in that we're going to have some experience in state from different manufacturers. And we'll see how those groups kind of share information with one another, and see how they try to help one another learn about their buses and what does work or doesn't work in some cases for them. As Virginia was pointing out for Nashville, Nashville, I guess like Memphis, I don't know what they are in terms of square miles for the size of the city, but Nashville's pretty big. And because of the lengthability of that bus, of the electric Proterras they purchased, they really were planning on using them on that shorter route. And so they can't just take it and put it on something that might go 1.5, 2, or 3 times as far during the day. because they don't have the opportunity charging out there. So each city's kind of a different place and where they are in mass transit. So please keep your ears open, and we'll see if we get in touch with Gary Rosenfeld soon to see if we get an update from him. But let us know if you hear something about what they're putting on the route. There was someone, I think it was Dennis, talking about the bus rapid transit lanes that are coming, which are fantastic, from downtown out to University of Memphis, I believe. And we want to hear more about that too. But yeah, that's kind of where the mass transit picture is. If we go to school buses, the first electric school bus in Tennessee that's going to show is look fairly similar to this one. It is a Type C bus. And if you don't know where Washington County is, that's where Johnson City is, way up in this corner. And actually, I now realized I highlighted the wrong county. That's Greene County. This one right next to it is Washington County. So it's even a little bit further east than that. But there's a wonderful group of people in Washington County that are implementing 2 different kinds of alternative fuel buses. And if you do not know, a diesel bus typically costs about $90,000 to $100,000. It can be a little less expensive or more expensive depending on bells and whistles they have on a bus. An electric school bus costs over $300,000 today. So it is very expensive. Obviously, the more we see adoption of that, we think that we can drive the cost of those down. But yeah, so there's a couple other people that are partners on that. Bright Ridge and TVA stepped up to help fund some of the cost of that bus. And so one of the interesting things with that is that if you look at Tennessee and consider the Appalachians, and then as you head west, you get over the Cumberland Plateau and then get into the flatter part of the western part of the state, the first electric school bus is going to be climbing mountains in Washington County. Now, it's probably more like a big hill. It's not the top of Lacan it's going to, but it's certainly going to get tested in terms of not operating in flat areas.
And Jonathan, let me add something to that. We are producing a DET EV fleet case study where we're creating an origin narrative where when the bus is in production or is on the road, we'll be capturing data, or we'll be working towards reporting that data a year after the bus is in operation. So it's due to be at their site this December. And I also want to just point out that it is the first electric school bus in our state. So that's another very cool part about having this particular product in our state.
So I think we've got about 10 slides left. I'm going to speed up just a little bit for you folks so that we can get to your questions. But this is just 2 maps of DC fast charge only in Tennessee. And the top one does not include Tesla superchargers, and the bottom one does. And so you can see along corridors, you don't see a huge difference. You certainly see Crossville on the bottom one with Tesla. There's a few other locations in Northeast Tennessee. You certainly see some more dots in Memphis. But it's just a part of what we want to do, even though Joe made some great points about how much people typically drive. Range anxiety is still something that a lot of people, it's just a worry they have. And so the more we can add charging both in urban areas and along corridors, we can reduce that as a potential barrier to some people buying an EV. So some of what's gone on is TDEC, Office of Energy Programs, and TVA led an effort that really started in 2018 and then went into 2019 that looked at, for the different types of infrastructure we need in Tennessee, what is some of the stuff that's going to be easier to get done, it's going to be harder to get done, that can work with certain partners to achieve more easily than others. And what they figured out is that some of the corridor work that we need to do is some of the most expensive, that can have some of the least return on investment, versus stuff in urban areas that may be used a bit more, versus people using a Chevy Bolt, a Nissan Leaf, some of the stuff that might not go 300 miles like some of the longest Teslas that are out there. So that may be where some of the funding goes, but they developed some maps that help us kind of see things a little bit. And this is one of the maps they came up with. So the green lines you see are the major interstates in Tennessee. And then the blue lines are some secondary corridors that they are already looking at possibly receiving some funding for adding DC fast chargers for the VW money that's going to come out next year. To address this briefly, what you're looking at here is one of their federal highways designated EV corridor maps. And these dashed lines are showing corridors that they call corridor pending, where TDOT with partners submitted to them over the last few years, yeah, we want to make this an EV corridor, it's not ready yet. And then these solid lines are ones that had DC fast chargers that were every 50 miles. Well, this map was actually used this year when we had to redesignate with FHWA that all of the Tennessee Triangle, because of DC fast chargers at Cracker Barrel that we lost over the last 3 or 4 years, are having to be changed from EV ready to EV pending. So there are definitely holes in this area now that don't allow for DC fast charging every 50 miles. The bright spot in that is that we have an Electrify America in Virginia, not far past Bristol, and then there's an EVgo unit in Dandridge, Tennessee, and Brad Rains from 7 State Power worked with a travel center that's just west of the Tri-City split to add one. So there are now units that are less than 50 miles apart here, trying to fill in some of those gaps that we want to work on. And it looks like it's probably going to be about 7 million that's going to come out next year in funds to work on probably mostly corridor DC fast charge for interstates as well as for secondary routes. It is possible that some of that money may focus on level 2 in urban areas, workplace charging, etc. But a big thing that Tennessee wants to do is try to eliminate the excuse of range anxiety. So that's some of what's going on. I'm going to go a little bit faster here now, but a great project by Tennessee Tech was this EV test bed. They have a number of partners. It's really trying to look, instead of an urban area, a rural area in Tennessee, and how do we take an education to people in these communities. And this is Putnam County, and Cookville's about right here, and then Crossville's about right here. But these 14 counties are mostly rural. And here's some of the partners that are in this. But the key thing they're going to do is they got 3 Nissan Leafs, 1 plug-in hybrid F250, and then this all-electric E450. This is going to be used on routes starting in Putnam County around Tennessee Tech and Cookville to take students and other people around the city, and then moved around some of those counties to see how useful that vehicle could be for doing rural county transit. And then these vehicles are being basically freely let. If you live in any one of these counties and you basically will fill out the paperwork to borrow this vehicle, you can have one of these vehicles for 2 weeks at no cost. They just ask you to complete a survey before and after that, and then possibly be willing to, be a part of a group to talk about their experience after the fact. But I think that, and Dr. Pingen Chen, that's standing right here, when we did a National Drive Electric Week event, was talking with this family about it, has done a great job really creating a hot spot, if you will, in this area on education. And there's a lot of work to go on, but they had installed 1 DC fast charger in Cookville, and now they are systematically installing level 2 units in all these more rural county centers. And I am almost done. The last project we want to tell you about is that Tennessee actually took the lead, and we wrote a proposal with these other 13 states to help all of our states build funded, fully realized Drive Electric Your State programs. Wisconsin, Utah, Louisiana, Virginia, all those states are going to work together to build programs like what we have in Drive Electric Tennessee. We have some work to do on Drive Electric Tennessee, but there's going to be a work on building chapters across the state, because we certainly know that, like Kiva or the Memphis chapter of EAA, you guys do events trying to educate people in the community about electric vehicles, of course, when COVID's not going on. But if What if instead of having 2 or 3 places around Tennessee doing that, we had 15? What if Cookeville and Nashville and Athens and Jackson and a bunch of other places had a group of people that wanted to work on EV education in their community? That's going to be something that's a part of this project. Working with, basically there are LPCs in Tennessee, the local power company, our utilities, for them to educate them and to get them to turn around and educate their citizenry as they will through whatever publications, website they have. There's going to be corridor, regional, and community EVSE planning as a part of this project. There's going to be state and local government education. We're going to each work on developing a preferred EV dealer system in each state. And then certainly last but not least, getting fleets to adopt electric vehicles. And that's not just focused on light duty, that's light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty. We certainly expect the largest portion of that to be light duty adoption, but we want to go ahead and start working on medium and heavy duty. And I could talk about more examples like that, but I see we were very close to the end. And let me start with, I think, Dennis, was it you that had a question on slide 11? Or there was a map? Yeah, this one.
Yes. There's a number of items on that list which are the Sierra Club does not consider to be clean fuels. Biodiesel, CNG, propane, LNG, those are all carbon-based fuels. We want to go to 0% carbon-based fuels. And we need to really be clear about the distinction. In renewable diesel, I mean, what the heck is the story with that? That's not a clean fuel.
Renewable diesel has about a 75 to 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for every gallon used, and you can replace a complete gallon of diesel with a gallon of renewable diesel.
Yeah,
So actually, I would say we probably ought to talk about that a little bit more, Dennis, because biodiesel is something that is renewably produced from renewable resources. Fleets can blend it 20% in with their diesel as a small step toward making a difference and receive a 15% reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions for every diesel vehicle they use. So each of these vehicles is different. They all have different pros and cons, including electricity. But we have to find steps that fleets will take. And if you spend a lot of time with fleets like I do, getting fleets to do something different is not easy. So we need a lot of tools in our toolkit, but we are very happy to see Drive Electric Tennessee come together and grow and have more people help work on EV education at the light, medium, and heavy duty level.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue about this, and I don't want to disrupt this presentation. I just think that the understanding and appreciation needs to recognize the difference between 0% carbon-based fuels and the others. So that's the last, and we can discuss that separately.
Okay. So I'm trying to see who else had questions or made notes. So I don't know, Joe, if you want to take one of the first question was about the mining the natural resources for the batteries.
Yes, I just sent a link on the chat page. So for the person that asked that question, I copied in a link from the Union of Concerned Scientists regarding the effects of mining. A couple of notes. The latest technology from Tesla and other manufacturers is not using cobalt, so cobalt is not going to be used in their future battery process. Ethical use of people in mining is obviously a key concern for everybody, as well as ethical means of extracting oil and other processing of other fuels. But the key thing is at this point, battery technology is evolving into a non-rare earth metal type of product, and it's getting better over time. And it's hopefully we will start to see those changes rather soon. Tesla just announced it a couple of weeks ago, and you should see some improvements along those lines.
Yeah, so does anybody, I'm looking through the chat, but if anybody else wants to unmute themselves and ask a question about anything we've discussed, please go right ahead.
Yeah, I tried to send links correlating to some of the questions that came up. So for those that had questions, you may be able to see some of the links, mostly for MATA buses and other things that may be coming up. I don't have a direct answer. We don't have a MATA bus that's electric right now, but it's definitely in the works with this new grant.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Kent,
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. If oh, I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Kent.
Oh, okay. I want to thank Virginia for the presentation about all the different electric buses around the state. I thought that was great, and I appreciated also filling in about what we're doing here in Knoxville. It made me feel like, hey, we're kind of leading here with 12 buses, even though they're not actually deployed yet, but I'm sure they will. But I have a question about New Flyer, and because I sat in on the Knoxville City Council meeting on Tuesday, and they are purchasing some charging equipment for opportunity charging along the routes from New Flyer. And there was a report that some employees from New Flyer had actually come up to Knoxville and registered some complaints about unfair labor practices that against New Flyer. And the Knoxville City Council discussed this for a while. I'm not quite sure what they did with it, but I wondered if any, and the complaint was lodged through an organization called Jobs to Move America, and I've worked with them. The people I worked with in LA were great people, and they are very enthusiastic about moving forward with the electrification of bus systems, and they were instrumental in helping LA Metro go electric while I was there. And I wondered if anybody had any information about the complaint against New Flyer by Jobs to Move America.
I had not heard of that.
Okay.
And
Great.
I've
Well,
actually been to the production facility. I've done a tour of the New Flyer production facility where they're produced electric, CNG, hybrid, diesel buses all on the same line. And
right.
it was a tour group of about 25 people. And certainly just from a unknowing observer's eye, nothing looked crazy when we went there. But there have been some interesting things in their discussions with New Flyer, and I don't know if people saw it. I don't know if I can get back there real quick, but in the warranty for the buses, if as New Flyer provides a 12-year warranty on that bus, if
Right.
they do opportunity charging along the route, they can't ever breach 30% of the battery capacity, not full, but the state of charge range. Or if they do, they'll void the warranty. So there's some things they have to kind of build in as software controls to keep them from ever going beyond there. So there's some interesting things with these buses, and I don't blame New Flyer for wanting to do that, because it's just like having a Leaf and DC fast charging it all the time. It's going to affect your battery faster than using level 2. So, but I had not heard of that.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm going to be, I've got a call into Jobs to Move America. So if I find anything out, I'll let people on this call know. Thanks for that information about the 30%, though. I hadn't picked up on that.
Kent, I also recall trying to get with Drive Electric Tennessee for possible charging stations at rest stops or travel stops on the interstates. And one of the fellows communicated that there was a problem related to a civil rights type of issue surrounding workers not being able to maintain their system. So apparently, as a way to help people with disabilities, rest stops have work programs for them, and these fast chargers or these chargers would be not providing them a job. So apparently there was an issue with getting these chargers at rest stops, and it was dealing with fair labor laws that were on the books, federal labor laws. Now, I did respond and say, listen, in New York, at some of the travel centers there or the rest stops there are charging stations there. So I don't know what they did to bypass that issue. But that came up as a labor issue when it came to trying to put in charging stations at travel rest stops, federal rest stops along the interstate.
there's something in Tennessee, and I don't know how many states do this, but there's like a council for the blind. And I think this was 20 plus years ago. And some states went into this idea to let this group manage the people that manage the rest stops. And so there's something about that. Alexa knows this better than I do, Joe, but there's a few people in the state government that do. But there's something about the Council of the Blind's management of these that really messes with the opportunity to do that. For lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, and there's got to be a solution that they can be part of that process too, just the same as they are with
Well, and
others.
you would think that would be a good thing if we could bring, some other people that might get some of the candy or the Cokes or something that's at some of those rest stops there. But
They got to be clean too.
something else that has been going on is there are like the charge points of the world, and a few other groups are talking to, I think it's NATSO. It's the North American Truck Stop Owners Association. And there's like two of these groups, and one group is like all the big dogs, and then another group is like the ones that own one off. And they are starting to talk to them about, ultimately trying to have DC fast chargers at like every truck stop that is a Love's and a Flying J and a Pilot. And just imagine if we had a breakthrough in a year or two where they put, they started off with 3 DC fast chargers, and maybe there's one Tesla or 2 Teslas and one Chatamo and CCS combo there, but because then you've got all the bathroom and the other stuff you already would like to have. It maybe might not be a sit-down restaurant, but you've got time to do something else. So that would be a huge leap forward nationwide if that got added, but that we'll see what happens with that.
Okay, I have a slide on what was presented to me. Let me go ahead and share that. Let's see
Can I
here.
make one quick question, ask everybody a question, Joe, before we do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So just as we were talking about these groups, if you have some passion about trying to have more solar charging for EVs in Tennessee, or something that could fit into, workplace charging programs, maintenance, we would love to have you all join one of the working groups or one of those task force. So just if you ever want to, you can call Virginia or email us, and we can have more of that discussion. But we certainly want to invite you to participate as you would like to. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now, Joe, so you can.
Okay, I'm going to share this screen, and this is. All right, this is what they gave me, and it may fall in line with what Virginia was saying, but Matt is slated to get 3 all-electric buses associated with charging and associated charging infrastructures through TDEC's Volkswagen Settlement Fund. There's a link there. I will put that into the chat as soon as I get done here. Matt also received a CMAQ funding through the Tennessee Department of Transportation a couple of years ago to purchase 10 electric buses and charging infrastructure for a route in Southeast Memphis. I put those links down below, I believe, and if I haven't, I will do it. Yeah, I did. I put one of the links down in the chat, so check that out. The Sustainability Office, our office, worked with Shelby County Roads, Bridges, and Engineering Department to win a $500,000 funding from the DOE for a 5-vehicle fleet electrification pilot project. This might be a duplication of what Virginia was talking about. I put a link in the chat so you can link to the news article on that. It's a 3-year project. They're looking at 4 light-duty EVs, 1 heavy-duty electric dump truck, and it'll run through 2023. So it'll get started later this year. So that's a pretty good sign. Also, our office, Sustainability Office, also recently worked with the City Fire Department and Public Works Division to submit an application to TDEC for their latest round of VW settlement funding for medium and large trucks. Don't know if this will be awarded yet. Hopefully find out by the end of 2020 or early 2021, but it was a proposal for 8 new vehicles, a combination of plug-in hybrids, 1 all-electric vehicle, and 1 new diesel truck to replace older, medium, and heavy-duty diesel vehicles in these 2 fleets. That's what I got from the Sustainability Office locally. I want wanted everybody to be informed of some of the good work that they're doing and the moves that are being made. At this point, it's in work, but it's not here at this moment.
Well, and let me tack onto that real quickly, because we worked with Knoxville, and they had some issues, and I don't believe they were able to apply for any vehicles in the VW funding, the class 4 through 8 that just closed end of October. We did work with Chattanooga, and they have a mix out of about 7 medium and heavy duty vehicles that are going to be different alternative fuels. One of them is going to be a dedicated electric F650 bucket truck. But at least this year, remember this is COVID times, thanks to Dana and Vivian spending a fair amount of time on this, it looks like you guys should, in the next year or so, have some, you may be the biggest fleet of, medium and heavy duty electric or plug-in hybrid vehicles, and somebody trying to gain some experience in this, put these on the road and see if they can prove them out and try to add more. So kudos to Memphis, Shelby County, and Dana and Vivian.
Yeah, they're doing bang up job. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I don't know if there's any other questions that we wanted to Virginia, were you able to get any other information that you need out?
Well, I was going to encourage anyone, if they want to go to driveelectrictn.org. We have a bi-monthly email that is produced and delivered to close to 1,000 people now. So please join our email so you can understand or get the most up-to-date information that we have of what's happening at the local, state, regional, national, and some world news. So please sign up. And we also have a Facebook page. Please join the conversation there. We have a pretty good following at this point. So we want you to be part of the conversation. Please give us a call or email or text us if you have any additional questions about any of of what we presented today. Thank you.
I have information on the Memphis BRT project. If people are interested in that, I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Good.
It's called Memphis Innovation Corridor. And there was an online meeting which has a lot of information about it. It's quite well designed and with community input and interface, nice stations, and it's really a bus rapid transit format. It's not just buses that happen to be newer and electric and such. They're the fare collection, and there'll be a platform to enter the buses at, so it's just a walk-on option rather than going up steps to get on the bus, and a lot of other elements to it. So I just provide that information. People can look at it on their own.
That'll be the first BRT in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, they're supposed to start construction next June, and I think that a lot of the funding actually is dependent upon their being underway by June, although the operation date is 2024 from my looking at it.
Is it your understanding, Dennis, that 2018 money is supposed to be that some of that BRT is going to be electric, or is the planned BRT just going to be diesel?
No, the BRT is going to be electric, and it's from a Tiger grant plus other sources of funding. I'm not sure if the 10 buses that are from the 2018 grant will be applied to this operation, or whether there will be additional buses that will, be utilized for the BRT. But I think there's 3 different money sources and grants that they've gotten that they're using to fund the original 10, and then some VW mitigation funds, which they're going to get 3 electric buses. And I think there's additional buses that will be in the BRT project. So in 5 years, there should be maybe 15 to 20 electric buses in Memphis. That's my guess, and adding things up.
So I can go get a degree at University of Memphis and every night take the BRT to go get ribs.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always a win-win. It's always, I love it. All right.
This is Virginia again. I would like to encourage anyone to send us information. If you can send it to virginia@driveelectrictn.org, then we'll be more than happy to post that on our communication channels.
Yes.
You all know a lot more about what's going on in your part of the state. And so there will be bits of information that we may be missing. So we just want to be sure that if you have something, please share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, Jonathan, as well. I believe we answered all the questions. Is there anything I missed as far as questions or coverage? If not, I'm going to present some more links as well. Hopefully that can get into the chat. And this is recorded, so we'll be able to review it in a future time period. So that would be really, really good for us if we need to tap into it again for anybody that might have missed it. A couple of things in closing. I just want to thank again Jonathan and Virginia for doing a lot of work. They've been working very hard. They just produced a video for Shelby County's Shelby Farms Park and the charging station, with the fact that it's solar assisted, and they buy green energy credits, so it can be a green energy source for it. So that's a win-win. We got a gem right in our backyard, and I'm really proud of that, as anybody who knows me knows. And I hope they keep up the work and we start to do it at more of the parks in Shelby County. And so thank you very much. I just want to leave you with, change the paradigm, change how you see things. A lot of the folks that are here, they've seen it from a different set of glasses and they're communicating it. But for a lot of the folk, the average folk out there, when they get an electric car, when they start to get green energy, when they start to save money, it does make a difference. So lead by example. We're all leaders, and show, because that second grade teacher changed my life, and they made a difference. So if you guys don't have anything else, I believe we can adjourn from here.
Thank you, Joe.
Great. Thanks, Joe. That was terrific. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Joe, Jonathan, Virginia. Thank you all.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. And this is, with COVID, there's some good things. Goes beyond just Tennessee. There's probably people from other parts of the country tapping in too. So this one positive note about COVID in this. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, Joe.
All right, you guys.
Ready?
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Hello, Stephen Sondheim. Goodbye, Stephen.
Hi. This was great. So great to see this so far along.
Steve, what are you eating in the photo?
Gum. Oh, that? Sorry, cherry pie.
Cherry pie. I couldn't see what it
Cherry
was.
Pie Festival up in Michigan.
Okay.
That's my daughter. Okay.
Have a good one.